побежал! Я заснял его!
Уходил, пошли.
Я заснял!
For nearly a decade, the ranch cheetah wood ape photo has stirred heated debates in the cryptid community, and honestly, it's easy to see why. The image shows a towering figure that many people have pointed to as proof of Bigfoot's existence. I had never come across this picture before, so I decided to dig a little deeper. Our investigation traced the photo back to Southern California, not a remote forest, but to an aspiring comedian named Mark Anders. Anders, who also called himself a bodybuilding instructor, had an unusual fascination with apes. When his comedy show Max Out failed to take off, he shifted gears and started producing Bigfoot content. With the help of a convincing costume, Anders and a friend created multiple videos and still shots, each supposedly taken in different parts of the United States. The timing is suspicious too. This particular photo surfaced shortly after Anders posted footage of himself filming gorillas at the San Diego Zoo, likely studying their movements for his act. Turns out, when show business dreams fade, sometimes they find new life in cryptid folklore. Between 1957 and 1971, the US and Australian governments were quietly preparing for something that sounded like science fiction at the time: the possibility of an alien invasion. This wasn't just Cold War paranoia. After a wave of unexplained sightings over Washington, D.C., the US launched Project Blue Book, a formal investigation into UFO activity. But here's where things take a sharp turn. Former CIA Director Admiral Hillenkoetter, along with other high-ranking officials, publicly admitted that the government knew UFOs were of extraterrestrial origin, but instead of disclosing that to the public, they buried it. Strict new rules followed. Military personnel were gagged, facing up to 10 years in prison and $10,000 in fines if they dared to speak out. According to a declassified memo, the government intentionally fostered a culture of mockery and ridicule, all to diffuse public fear. But was that the real reason? Some intelligence reports suggest something deeper: a fear that the Soviets might use the chaos of mass sightings as a tool for psychological warfare. And while the public was being told it was all nonsense, behind closed doors the government was doing something else entirely, building their own flying saucers. Canada's Avro project was a real attempt to reverse engineer the very craft they dismissed as fantasy. Witnesses were mocked, whistleblowers were threatened, and all the while, the blueprints were being drawn. Honestly, at this point, none of it surprises me. So what else is sitting in those classified vaults? If you've got insight or theories, I'm all ears. It began as a heartwarming moment, a grandfather dancing with his granddaughter at a family gathering, smiles all around, the kind of memory you'd expect to cherish forever. But as the two sway joyfully from left to right, the camera captures something no one at the party noticed in real time. A figure begins to emerge. At first it's barely noticeable, just a shadowy blur in the background. But as the pair continues dancing, the figure moves with them, trailing just behind. Its form is dark, its presence ominous. Yet nobody seems aware of it. It wasn't until later, when the girl's mother reviewed the footage, that the horrifying truth came to light. She paused, rewound, watched again. There it was, something following them. Some might say spirits are drawn to joyful moments, especially relatives who've passed on. But the family is adamant. There's no one they've lost who would show up like this. No familiar faces, no comforting presence. Instead, they believe they've captured something far more sinister. So now we turn it over to you. Was this a visitation from the other side, or a dark presence hiding in plain sight? In November 2000, on Cheyenne and Arapaho tribal lands just west of Oklahoma City, tribal member Russell Lumpmuth captured something remarkable while cleaning up after a community event. At first glance, Oklahoma might not seem like prime Bigfoot territory, but the state actually has a long record of reported sightings. The first photo shows a massive figure, partially hidden by the trees. Its features are striking: deep-set eyes, a heavy brow ridge, and a long, powerful jawline, traits difficult, if not impossible, to fake with a costume. The second image shows the creature in profile, with its head sitting unusually low on broad shoulders, a barrel-shaped torso, and muscular arms. The anatomy appears raw and powerful, not like anything staged. What makes this case even more compelling is Lumpmuth's own behavior afterward. Unlike typical hoaxers who chase fame or money, he never tried to profit from the images. In fact, investigators reported that an office secretary was so unsettled by the photos that she deleted the digital files. Through every follow-up interview, Lumpmuth never wavered. No extra details, no embellishments, just the same consistent account. Researchers later analyzed the images using a small tree in the background as a reference. With a 5-foot 8-inch man holding a 7.5-foot pole for scale, they determined the figure stood well over 7.5 feet tall, with a head making up nearly 18% of its height. For comparison, human heads average only about 13% of total body height, unless you're a big-headed baby. Even more striking, the proportions and posture strongly resemble the subject of the famous Patterson-Gimlin film from 1967, shot more than 3 decades earlier and 1,000 miles away. The similarities are uncanny. So what do you think? Are these photos legitimate evidence of a giant, undocumented primate roaming North America? A lone tent deep in the Sierra Nevadas, California's infamous Bigfoot country. One camper, spooked by signs of something rummaging through their gear, sets up a motion-triggered camera before leaving camp. Just in case. They never expected what it would catch. At first, it's nothing unusual. 2 men pass by the lens, average height, average build. But then, something else follows. Something that dwarfs them entirely. Lumbering into view comes a figure, at least 8 feet tall, moving with a slow, deliberate confidence that chills you to the core. This isn't some blurry speck in the background. Zoom in and it becomes painfully clear. Whatever this is, it's solid, tangible, and absolutely not human. Experts are already comparing it to the legendary 1967 Bluff Creek footage, the holy grail of Bigfoot evidence that's baffled analysts for over half a century. And here's the kicker. Because of a frustrating 10-second lag in the camera's motion sensor, we may have missed even more. What else passed through that camp in those missing moments? The Sierra Nevadas are no strangers to Bigfoot encounters. In fact, they rank among the highest in the world. But this footage? This is the kind that makes skeptics sit up and believers lean in. So here's the question. In a world where fake videos get debunked within hours, why does this one still stand unshaken? Because whatever walked through that campsite, it wasn't a man. In the quiet farmland of Richland County, Ohio, where Interstate 71 slices through 150 acres of open fields, something stirred in the stillness. Something unexplained. It was December 28, 2024. A routine afternoon hunt was all Andrew Baum and his stepfather, Sean, had planned. As the winter sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows over the frost-hardened ground, the two worked quietly, setting up a tree stand around 4 p.m. With daylight fading, Andrew climbed up to test their new vantage point. From that elevated perch, the landscape unfolded like a storybook. Bare-limbed trees, wide-open fields, the distant hum of the highway. Everything felt ordinary, until it wasn't. Baum's eyes caught movement in a nearby field, but it wasn't a deer. It wasn't a coyote. What he saw moved with unsettling grace. Long, deliberate strides, covering ground with speed no human should possess. It didn't run. It glided. Powerful. Purposeful. The winter setting makes this sighting especially compelling. With no foliage to obscure the view and the pale afternoon sun still casting light, visibility was nearly perfect. And Baum had no camera, no phone, nothing to capture the moment. It was raw, pure, a human eye, unfiltered, watching something it couldn't explain. Word of the encounter spread quickly, catching the attention of the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. Matt Moneymaker, BFRO's founder and Ohio investigator Brian Damon conducted a full investigation. They found Baum credible. But that only raised more questions. Could it have been a misidentified human? A trick of distance or light? Maybe. But then came the property owner's response. While they confirmed that Baum and Sean had permission to be there, they made something else clear. They wanted no publicity, no attention, no curiosity seekers trespassing with cameras and flashlights. Some saw this as understandable caution. Others wondered if the owners were hiding something. Whatever the truth may be, the encounter stands as another mystery in a long line of rural legends. A reminder that even in today's hyper-connected world, there are still places, quiet places, where the edges of reality blur, where fields turn into stages and something watches from the tree line. A young mountain biker named Jacob was filming one of his regular rides through the forest when something unexpected jolted him. Jacob, an aspiring YouTuber, records every outing, rotating between 5 favorite trails. In this clip, as he rides across the frame, something emerges from the woods to the right. Pale, emaciated, with oversized, insect-like eyes. It's not the kind of sight you shake off easily. Jacob later said the shock nearly sent him crashing to the ground. Panicked, he spun his bike around and tore back down the hill. By the time he made it home, he was so rattled he left his phone strapped to his bike, forgetting it had been recording. When he finally checked the footage, there it was. The creature, captured on camera. Our story takes us straight into the heart of downtown Los Angeles, where something strange and unsettling was spotted not by a person on the ground, but by Google Earth. In a dusty, empty lot near the 101 freeway and Mission Road, satellite imagery revealed the word HELP scrawled in massive letters, alongside two more haunting words, Trafico and LAPD. The messages were so large they could only be read from the sky, a digital cry for help, captured from space. The images went viral almost immediately, sparking theories that ranged from human trafficking to hidden criminal activity. The public demanded answers, and so did authorities. LAPD officers responded swiftly, and KTLA News dispatched a helicopter to get a closer look. The aerial footage confirmed everyone's worst fear. The messages were real, still carved into the earth, clear and chilling. But when investigators arrived at the site, the story took a dramatic turn. The markings weren't the work of a hidden victim. They were created by a man named Jose, someone already known to authorities. According to police records, Jose had been carving messages into the dirt in this area for years. Repeatedly, he had been offered housing assistance and mental health evaluations. Repeatedly, he had refused. The LAPD confirmed they'd had multiple encounters with him, none resulting in lasting help. The case didn't end in a criminal conspiracy, but in a sobering reminder. Sometimes the scariest stories online aren't about monsters or abductions. They're about real people, suffering quietly, in full view of the world. Hopefully, Jose can finally get the help he needs, and thankfully, this time, it wasn't something more sinister. In rural Michigan, about 40 miles outside of Detroit, a man named Mike lives on a quiet 12-acre property nestled among old oak trees. His house sits well back from the road, and behind it, about 200 yards out, rests his pride and joy, a large, peaceful pond that he stocked with fish years ago. It draws all kinds of wildlife, usually to his delight, but one October night that all changed. It was around 9:30 p.m. The weather was unseasonably warm, the moon nearly full, casting a soft silver light across the land. Mike was doing what he'd done countless times before, relaxing on his back deck with a beer, soaking in the calm. A few solar lights around the pond danced across the water's surface. Then he heard it. A rhythmic splashing coming from the pond. Now Mike was no stranger to the sounds of wildlife. Deer, raccoons, the occasional fox, he knew them all. But this was different. Too deliberate. Curious, he stood up, half expecting to catch sight of some local kid sneaking a late-night swim. But what he saw chilled him to the core. At the edge of the pond, something crouched. At first, it looked like a large dog hunched over the water. It had dark fur or maybe hair. It was hard to tell in the moonlight. But something was off. The way it moved. The way it was built. Its limbs were wrong. The shoulders were broad and the back legs far too long for any dog. Then it stood up. Unfolding itself, unnaturally fluid, it rose onto two legs like a man. Mike froze. The creature towered over the pond, easily 7 feet tall, maybe more. In the moonlight, its silhouette came into focus, an elongated muzzle like a wolf, but too massive. Pointed ears twitched, scanning the woods as if listening. For a brief, absurd moment, Mike tried to convince himself it was someone in a costume, but the movement, the weight of it, it was too real, too smooth, too alive. He reached for his phone, fumbling with trembling fingers, but by the time he looked up, the thing was already gliding away. Not quite running, not quite walking, just moving, fast, across the clearing, vanishing into the tree line like it had never been there. Mike sat there in stunned silence, his beer forgotten, the pond reflecting nothing but questions. He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he mustered the courage to check the pond. There were strange impressions near the water's edge, nothing distinct, just enough to confirm it wasn't a dream. The ground was too hard for clear tracks. But the fear? That was real. Mike's a construction worker, practical, no nonsense, no interest in ghost stories or monsters, but even he admits. What he saw wasn't a bear. It wasn't a man, and it wasn't any animal native to Michigan. He hasn't told his wife. His coworkers wouldn't understand, but he sent this story to us, not for fame, but so someone out there who's seen something similar might feel less alone. And just in case you're wondering, Mike locks his doors now. He doesn't sit outside after dark anymore, because some things you just can't unsee. At about 9,000 feet on Wasatch Mountain, a group of hikers trained a spotting scope on something that stopped them cold, a massive figure moving across a field of snow, reportedly more than 75 inches deep. Keep in mind they were a long way off, so the fact it was visible through a scope says something about its size. Watching the footage, the first idea that crosses your mind is skier. But the movement looks wrong for someone on skis, especially if it's going uphill. Instead, it reads as something bipedal and enormous. One witness even said a private helicopter pilot later flew up and photographed huge footprints in the snow. If that last detail is accurate, it raises the stakes considerably. Whatever it is not small. Before I roll this next piece of footage, I just want to say, I really hope you're enjoying the video so far. But this next clip, I don't even know where to begin. I've watched it over and over again, and every time I'm left with more questions than answers. It's the kind of footage that sticks with you, not because of what you do see, but because of what you can't explain. I'm reaching out to you guys because, honestly, I need help with this one. There's something about it that just doesn't sit right, something that defies logic. So please, pay close attention, watch closely, and tell me, what is this? A viral TikTok clip has the internet in a frenzy, but this time it's not just about eerie vibes, it's about evidence. In the video, a group of hunters captures a haunting howl echoing through a dense forest. At first, most wrote it off as a wolf, maybe a lone stray howling into the wind, but when experts ran a detailed sound analysis, everything changed.
I think he'll pick up that sound. Yeah. Man. I think he'll pick up that sound. Yeah. Man.
Here's where it gets fascinating. The frequencies in the recording don't match any known North American wolf species, not one. But the real kicker? The sound does match something else. It lines up almost perfectly with the longest documented Bigfoot vocalization ever recorded. That's not internet hype. That's coming from seasoned sound analysts. And suddenly, this isn't just a creepy noise in the woods. It's a possible link, one of the most compelling yet, between a modern encounter and the enduring legend of Bigfoot. The comparisons are hard to ignore. The structure, the pitch, the length, all line up with what many believe to be the elusive creature's call. Now the debate is raging. Skeptics are leaning in. Believers are doubling down. Because if this wasn't a wolf, then what exactly was howling in those woods? When Reddit user Darkroom227 and his family moved into a Victorian-era home last month, their kids did what kids always do. Among the items left behind by the previous owners, they uncovered a single photograph. At first glance, it shows a woman, but then you notice what's wrong. Where one of her eyes should be, there's nothing but a dark, empty socket. She's wearing a wide, unsettling smile, and her hand seems off, almost like it has 6 or 7 fingers. That's disturbing enough, but here's where it gets even creepier. In the background of the photo, you can clearly see the same wallpaper that still covers the entire top floor of their house today, and hanging on the wall in the image is a picture frame. When the family moved in, that exact frame was found empty, hanging in their daughter's room. There's more. If you look over the woman's right shoulder in the photo, you'll spot a door. The uploader explained that the door led to a small, locked room they couldn't access at first. After breaking the lock, they discovered it was little more than a tiny cell-like space, barely big enough to be called a closet. He brushed it off as an odd storage space. But after seeing that photo, I can't shake the thought. Whatever that thing is in the picture, that's where it lived. You might have seen this footage before, it's made the rounds online. But what you're about to see is a sharpened, cleaned up version that adds a whole new layer of clarity.
О, побежал! Я заснял его!
Испугали его, пошли.
Я заснял!
This clip was originally captured in Russia, and even in its raw form, it was already raising eyebrows. But now, with the details enhanced and the blur stripped away, it becomes something else entirely. Take a good look. The movement, the shape, the environment. It's one of the more compelling pieces of footage I've come across. And now that the image is clear, I can't help but ask, does this cleaned up version make it more convincing, or even more unsettling? You be the judge. Now, that was a jolt. That dragon, and I mean poor thing, got quite the shock from that electric eel. Honestly, if you've got enough voltage coursing through your body to light up a predator through its own slimy mouth, props to you. That's nature's version of a taser. And it worked perfectly. A Reddit user who goes by Borderline Braindead shared this eerie photo on the Paranormal Encounters subreddit. He explained the picture was taken more than a decade ago, while he and his family were sitting around a campfire. At first glance, it looks like a normal snapshot, until you notice one of the empty chairs. In the photo, a misty, human-shaped figure seems to be sitting there with them. Even stranger, it shows up from multiple angles in different shots. The family didn't see anything unusual that night. It wasn't until they downloaded the pictures later that they realized they may not have been alone. Could it be smoke, a trick of the light, or something else entirely? Part of me wonders if it's a family member from the past, stopping by to join the gathering. Either way, it looks like someone, or something, found a seat by the fire. You've probably heard it before. Dogs sense things we can't. This story might just prove it. A woman was filming her peaceful walk through the woods, her 2 dogs trotting ahead, when suddenly they stopped. Both of them froze, fixating on a single spot up ahead. No barking, no growling, just intense, unmoving focus. She tugged gently at their leashes, expecting them to continue, but they refused to move forward. At the time, she didn't think much of it. Dogs pause for all sorts of reasons, right? But later, when reviewing the footage, her heart skipped a beat. Right there, exactly where her dogs had stared, was someone. A pale face peeking out from between the trees. Dark, sunken eyes, dressed entirely in black, still, watching, blending eerily into the shadows, almost as if it were part of the forest itself. Some believe this was a Watcher of the Woods, a folkloric entity whispered about in old tales, a guardian, or perhaps a warden, silently observing those who dare to step into its domain. What makes this encounter truly chilling is how her dogs reacted before anything was visible. Not even the camera captured it clearly in real time. They sensed something long before she ever saw it. It makes you wonder, how often do our pets notice what our eyes can't? How many warnings have we brushed off, thinking our animals were just distracted, when in fact they were trying to protect us from something unseen? What started as an ordinary beach stroll in Australia quickly turned into something out of a nightmare. A dog walker enjoying the coastline stumbled upon a bizarre and unsettling sight, the decomposing remains of a massive sea creature washed up on the sand. Its hollow eye sockets stared blankly into the sky, and a long, exposed spine jutted from its body like the remnants of some ancient beast. But the real mystery lies not just in its eerie appearance. It's in the fact that no one can identify it. Marine biologists and ocean experts alike have examined the footage and photos, yet still can't say with certainty what this thing once was. Too decayed to classify, and too strange to dismiss, the creature has fueled a wave of speculation online. And here's the kicker, this isn't a one-off. Australia's shores have a long, well-documented history of yielding bizarre, unexplained marine remains. From unidentifiable carcasses to deep-sea oddities, this land down under seems to be a magnet for maritime mysteries. One thing's for sure, the sea isn't done surprising us. Not yet. This clip starts as a typical night of street racing, engines roaring and headlights cutting through the dark. But what everyone online kept replaying was not the cars. It was the dog. One moment the road is empty, the next a dog appears in the middle of the lane as if it had been teleported there. According to people at the scene, nobody saw the dog while it happened. The camera operator apparently did not notice it either until they reviewed the footage. The clip went viral because no one can explain the dog's sudden appearance. Was it a trick of editing? A camera artifact? Or something stranger? Tell me if you've seen an explanation that holds up. Tucked between Columbia Falls and Glacier National Park lies an area so remote, even seasoned outdoorsmen rarely pass through. Local skier Julian knows this terrain well, but during one of his backcountry runs, he stumbled across something no one could explain. Imprinted in the untouched snow were massive tracks, each one far larger than Julian's ski boots. And if you've ever worn ski boots, you know, those aren't small. But it wasn't just the size that raised eyebrows. One of the prints showed 2 clumped toes, an odd feature that didn't match any known wildlife in the area. Track experts reviewing the images noted the deep impressions and enormous stride, indicating something with incredible weight had moved through the area. Even more baffling, wildlife researchers confirmed that grizzlies and other large predators wouldn't be trudging through snow this deep, especially not in midwinter. What's even more compelling, the tracks followed a perfectly linear path. as if the creature was walking on two legs. Could this be fresh evidence of Montana's most elusive resident? You already know who we're thinking of. A quiet winter scene. Someone in a dark coat walking two dogs through the snow. Nothing out of the ordinary, or so it seems. But take a closer look at our mysterious figure. That hooded silhouette, hands in pockets, strolling through the cold. Can you tell if it's a man or a woman? Now, what if I told you it's not a person at all? It's actually a black poodle facing the camera. Seriously, as one sharp-eyed viewer pointed out, what looks like a hooded head is actually the dog's tail, and the legs are just its front paws. The blurry angle creates a perfect illusion, tricking our brains into seeing a person bundled in winter gear. Even seasoned viewers admitted, wow, I totally saw a man on the left. Experts say the poodle's dark fur creates a silhouette so convincing that it hijacks our brain's pattern recognition. And yep, it completely fooled me too. Now tell me in the comments, did you catch it right away? How long did it take you to figure it out? Or can you still not see it at all? Side note, even after I knew it was a poodle, it still took me way longer than I care to admit. While hiking abroad, a group of students captured something you do not see every day, a dense ball of bees being swarmed by bats. The footage is the kind of natural oddity that makes you pause, bats darting through the air, intercepting bees and forcing them into a tight, rolling sphere. One Redditor, Tom509, said the clip took him straight back to a childhood sighting he never could explain. That reaction makes sense. There is something primal about seeing two swarming forces interact in midair. Are the bats hunting the bees? Is it coordinated? Whatever the mechanics, the bees seem trapped by instinct, break formation, and they get picked off. It is chaotic and beautiful and a little terrifying. In a quiet field at the edge of the wild, a grazing creature stirred something ancient in the hearts of those who saw it. Caught on camera in the distance was an animal that matched every historic description of a unicorn. Not the glitter-covered, rainbow-tailed creature from fairy tales, but something far more primal and majestic. Tall, strong, and elusive, this creature bore a single, unmistakable spiral horn jutting from its forehead. Its movement was calm, yet cautious, wild, yet regal. What's so fascinating is that the footage lines up perfectly with medieval European accounts. Those texts didn't describe unicorns as magical pets. They described them as fiercely independent beasts, almost impossible to catch. Animals of the forest, not of fantasy. In those ancient writings, unicorns weren't symbols of magic. They were symbols of purity, strength, and mystery, said to appear only to the rarest of souls. So, if this really was a unicorn, what does that mean for us now? Have legends simply exaggerated a rare species? Or did we just witness something that time itself forgot? Let me know what you think. Could this be proof that some myths never really disappeared? In one of the most compelling recent developments in Bigfoot research, a vocalization recording from Washington's Olympic Peninsula has captured the attention of experts, including Matt Moneymaker, founder of the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, BFRO. The Olympic Peninsula, nestled in the northwestern corner of the continental U.S., is a hotbed for Sasquatch sightings. Its vast, salmon-rich rainforests provide both shelter and sustenance, and some researchers believe this region hosts the highest density of Sasquatch activity anywhere in North America. In his analysis of the new recording, Moneymaker offers insight into why audio may soon become the most important form of Bigfoot documentation. According to him, visual encounters, especially road crossings, typically last just seconds, making video evidence incredibly rare. But vocalizations? Those can stretch out for minutes, offering a rare chance to capture something tangible. And in this particular case, the sounds were unlike anything known.
I never heard a noise like that before. So now it ain't gonna do it again. It's just been bellowing. Yeah, like that. What the hell would that be? Wow.
In Moneymaker's own words, this is absolutely, positively not a wolf. If you or someone else assumes it is, I urge you to find existing recordings of wolf howls and compare them. You'll realize just how different this is from any known canid sound. The growls, the rising whoops, the rhythm, it all points to something that doesn't match any regional wildlife. But beyond just analysis, Moneymaker gives some practical advice for everyday people who might encounter the unexplained. Remember, the phone in your pocket is also a sound recorder. It may be a video camera, but it records decent audio. If you hear something strange, start recording. Just point your phone toward the sound and hit record. As the search for Bigfoot evolves, the approach is shifting. Eyewitness accounts and grainy images still matter, but increasingly it's the sounds of the forest, those eerie, echoing calls in the night, that might bring us closer to understanding what walks among the trees. Because sometimes, it's not about what you see, it's about what you hear. December 22nd, 2000. 3 nights before Christmas, a Sarasota County family was jolted awake by a commotion on their back deck. There was banging and crashing, like furniture being overturned. Then came something else, a deep, guttural grunting and a putrid smell that filled the air. Cautiously, they looked through the back window. What they photographed was a massive, hair-covered creature lumbering across the deck. Their first reasonable reaction was that it must be an escaped orangutan from a zoo. But once the photo reached the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, the story took on a life of its own. Local cryptid investigator Dave Sheely of the Florida Skunk Ape Research Center preserved what he says are footprint casts from similar encounters. According to him, the prints are far larger than any known primate in that region. That evidence has kept the debate alive. Is this a case of misidentified exotic animal or photographic proof of the skunk ape? For me, the smell is a key detail. That kind of rank odor is not something you usually get with a lost zoo animal. But I want to hear your take. What do you think visited that family that December night? Drop your theories below. It was a quiet Friday evening in January, precisely 6:40 p.m., when a trail camera perched on a remote dirt road snapped a frame that would ignite debate across the paranormal world. In the pitch-black stillness, 2 figures emerged. One stood motionless in the center of the path, its shape indistinct. But it was the second figure, off to the left, that made this image unforgettable. Those familiar with the Fresno Nightcrawler phenomenon will instantly recognize the unnerving silhouette. Long, spindly legs, a torso that seems missing, and a strange mechanical glide that defies natural movement. It's as if the bottom half of a deer decided to walk upright, alien and unsettling in every way. Skeptics have tried to explain it away. Some claim it's just a deer alongside a person in a heavy coat, but even casual observers point out the figure's unnatural stance, and the fact that this was the only image transmitted that night, despite the camera's ability to instantly relay multiple shots. So, what really happened here? Could the elusive night crawlers be expanding their range beyond their usual California haunts? And what's with the single-frame capture? Was it a malfunction? Or something more deliberate? Maybe these beings don't want to be seen, at least not for long. Turn down the lights. Cue the eerie music. In the right setting, under the right conditions, the subtle sway of this tree could easily be mistaken for a lurking Bigfoot. The silhouette, the rhythm, the atmosphere, it all lines up a little too well. Of course it's just a tree, but the fact that it fooled someone enough to end up on a Bigfoot forum, honestly, that's kind of awesome. This next clip is from a nighttime security camera in Turkey, and it's the kind of footage that gives you goosebumps. Off to the left of the frame, a small, humanoid figure appears, moving along by itself. At first glance, it looks childlike, maybe even toddler-sized. That alone is strange. Then, without warning, the figure steps up and seems to float into the sky. It vanishes off-screen for a moment, then reappears, lands, and continues across the street as if nothing unusual happened. Some viewers immediately call it a camera glitch or deliberate digital manipulation. That is possible. Others say it fits into local folklore. Turkey sits where many ancient cultures met, and stories about fairies and airborne spirits are part of that tapestry. The CCTV makes this hard to analyze. The angles, lighting, and compression artifacts can create illusions, but the smooth transition from walking to floating is tough to dismiss outright. Is it a trick of the camera, a hoax, or something we don't understand? Share your theory below. Which side are you on? Deep in the untamed wilderness of Washington state, nearly 6 miles from the nearest trace of civilization, a trail camera snapped something truly chilling. It was a quiet August night in 2014, 8:25 p.m. to be exact, when the camera's infrared sensor was triggered. but instead of a deer or bear, the lens captured a solitary figure. Standing among the trees was a woman, or at least something that appeared to be a woman, draped in a long, flowing white gown. In her arms, she clutched what looked eerily like a doll. The camera only fired twice. In the first image, she stands still, utterly motionless, almost statuesque. In the second, she is turned slightly, as if sensing the silent observer in the trees, as if she knew she was being watched. Now here's what makes this encounter even more disturbing. There are no roads to this location, no homes, no trails, no campsites. This is rugged, remote terrain. So who or what would be wandering through this forgotten patch of forest, dressed in nothing but a paper-thin gown in the dead of night? The camera's owner, a veteran forest firefighter, insists the images weren't staged. Extensive online searches have failed to find any matching photos or known hoaxes. Local law enforcement confirmed there were no missing person reports matching the woman's appearance. To this day, the identity of this mysterious figure, and the reason for her presence so deep in the woods, remains completely unknown. As you might expect, theories flooded the comment sections. Most lean toward something sinister, a ghost, a wraith, something supernatural. But a handful of voices suggested a different possibility. Perhaps she was a dementia patient, lost and confused, somehow wandering miles into the wilderness. It's a haunting thought either way, because whether this was something paranormal or tragically human, the question remains, what was she doing out there? In January of 2012, a man was doing something he'd done dozens of times before, checking the footage from his trail camera. But this time, something was off. As he scrolled through the nighttime clips, one frame stopped him cold, a glowing orb drifting silently through the forest like a floating lantern. Strange on its own, but what happened next made it truly chilling. Several white-tailed deer, animals known for bolting at the slightest human presence, didn't flee. In fact, they moved closer, drawn in by the light, mesmerized, almost as if in a trance, before calmly returning to their feed. That reaction alone suggests this wasn't anything ordinary. It wasn't human. It wasn't natural. Some believe the orb was a spirit light, similar to those found in Native American folklore, ghostly guides or watchers of the woods. Others lean toward a more extraterrestrial explanation, a scout drone perhaps, or a probing device. But here's a more unsettling thought. What if it's neither? What if it's something that's always been here? A species or force we've never classified, smart enough to remain unseen, but curious enough to sometimes reveal itself. So I ask you, have you ever seen a light like this, silent, drifting, and impossible to explain? This next piece of footage comes straight out of Florida, sent in to Cryptid University. Long before viral sky watching became a trend, one of Mexico's most respected UFO researchers captured something that would open an entirely new chapter in the history of unexplained phenomena. While conducting his usual rooftop observation, Salvador Guerrero spotted what he assumed was just another UFO drifting over the city. But when he zoomed in through his viewfinder, everything changed. Suspended high in the sky was a dark, humanoid figure, slowly rotating on its axis, arms and legs outstretched, completely still. No parachute, no wings, no visible propulsion, just a human-shaped form, floating, impossibly, in midair. For several minutes, the figure remained in perfect defiance of gravity, slowly spinning. Then, without warning, it drifted behind a building and disappeared. But the mystery didn't end there. Months later, in December, Salvador recorded another sighting, a nearly identical figure, hovering in the exact same location. And this time, he wasn't alone. Another respected researcher who had remained silent due to the sheer strangeness of his own footage came forward, revealing he too had captured a little flying man hovering silently in the skies. While these encounters may sound bizarre, they're not isolated. In fact, Mexico leads the world in documented UFO sightings and aerial anomalies. Could these floating humanoids be connected to the larger phenomenon? Are they travelers, watchers, or something else entirely? Whatever they are, they're changing the way we look at the skies. This clip has people rushing to the comments section, though maybe not for the reasons you'd expect. Let's take a listen. After watching it myself, I dove into the comments. Some viewers were impressed, but others were quick to point out that the audio seems recycled, possibly from the old Sierra Sounds recordings. Now, I'm not entirely sure. If this were filmed in another part of the country, I might be more skeptical, but here's the twist. We do know that the legendary skunk ape has long been associated with Florida. So, is this recycled hype or fresh evidence with familiar roots? I've always been fascinated by Chernobyl, every part of its history, but especially the wildlife that still lives there. These animals have adapted to one of the harshest environments on Earth, and their resilience is incredible. Some don't look as fortunate, showing the effects of radiation and survival in a tough ecosystem. But the remarkable thing is, they're still alive, still moving through the exclusion zone. And that says a lot. On the night of September 16, 2014, controversial researcher Robert Dodson set a bait trap deep in the woods of Oklahoma, a mix of fruit and raw meat meant to lure out the unknown. By 9:30 p.m., his trail camera picked up something, or someone, watching from the shadows. Two glowing eyes pierced through the trees near the bait site.
I'm gonna keep dunking down for, damn it.
Then Dodson did the unthinkable. He charged straight toward it.
Don't do this at home. Whatever you do. Right over here. Don't ever do this.
The aftermath only deepened the mystery. When the area was surveyed, the eye level was measured at an astonishing 8 feet high, far too tall for any deer or common animal. So what kind of creature watches from that height, hidden in the dark, glowing eyes unblinking? Technology has a strange habit of catching what the naked eye can't. It was 2017, just an ordinary night at a quiet bar. Two women, sisters-in-law, were out enjoying drinks, laughter, and the simple comfort of each other's company. With hardly anyone else around, they decided to snap a selfie using Snapchat's iconic dog filter. Just a playful moment, preserved in pixels. But what showed up in that photo was anything but playful. Behind their smiling faces stood a third. Not a bartender. Not a passerby. No one they'd seen in the bar that night, but a face they both knew. Deeply knew. The unmistakable image of their grandmother. The same soft smile, the same familiar hairstyle, the very same woman who had passed away 10 years earlier, in 2007. The moment froze them. This wasn't a blur or a trick of light. It was clear, present, intentional. There were no mirrors, no reflections, no camera errors that could explain what they saw. Snapchat's filter was designed to add cartoon puppy ears, not resurrect the past, but somehow it had. Years have passed, and that image remains. Unexplained, unedited, undeniable. A simple selfie became something more, a quiet message from beyond the veil. Because sometimes when the world is still, and technology forgets its limits, the ones we've lost find a way to reach out, even if it's just to say, I'm still here.
What?
Somebody's in the window keeping us.
No, there's not.
We heard a ticking clock.
Don't go nowhere. Stay right here.
A father rushed to his daughter's room after hearing her scream that someone was standing outside her window. In the footage, you can see a figure dart away the moment he appears. He ran outside to check, but no one was there. Later, when he reviewed the video more carefully, the details were chilling. The figure that moved away didn't look human at all. Its head seemed elongated, its eyes pitch black and oversized. Features more like an alien than a prowler. The clip left both the father and viewers unsettled. Was this an otherworldly intruder or just a neighbor pulling a twisted prank? Personally, I can't help but be skeptical. If my child screamed about someone outside their window, recording would not be my first reaction. I'd be grabbing anything but a camera. That little detail makes me wonder. This next clip comes from Mountain View, Arkansas, and it suggests that something mysterious might have been drawn out by a rare cosmic event, the solar eclipse. On the night of April 6, 2024, just days before the eclipse swept across the region, two friends staying at an Airbnb deep in the Arkansas mountains found themselves part of an unforgettable and unsettling encounter. It was around 8 p.m. They were standing on the deck waiting for the rest of their group, stargazing and enjoying the mountain silence, until they started hearing heavy footsteps, slow, deliberate, and getting closer. The sound circled them. Branches cracked. Leaves rustled. Something was there, just out of sight, until it was right beside them. Here's where it gets really strange. They didn't see anything in the moment. But later, when they reviewed their camera footage, Rocky Mountain Sasquatch analyzed the clip and enhanced it by 200%. What they found was chilling. Behind a nearby tree, a distinct arm and hand can be seen reaching outward, with what appears to be long hair draping from it, movement that had gone completely unnoticed in real time. This raises an intriguing theory. Some in the cryptid community believe sightings increase during major astronomical events, eclipses, supermoons, meteor showers. Is there a connection? Could this mysterious figure have been drawn out by the upcoming solar eclipse? That's a possibility I hadn't considered before. But if these sightings cluster around cosmic events, maybe we should start looking up before we start looking around. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are eclipse windows prime time for cryptid encounters? This next clip, originally posted on Reddit, has unsettled a lot of people. The uploader had been hearing strange noises in the woods behind his home for days. One night, fueled by a mix of curiosity, courage, and maybe a little liquid bravery, he decided to investigate with nothing but a flashlight. Each step deeper into the forest only heightened the tension. The quiet pressed in, broken only by the crunch of leaves underfoot. Then, as his flashlight swept across the trees, something appeared, a dark, cloaked figure standing among the branches. He filmed as long as he could before instincts took over and he bolted back to safety. And really, who could blame him? The footage has stirred up debate ever since. Skeptics argue it's just a late-night prankster in a robe. Others suggest something stranger, even sinister. From a hidden cult to a creature mistaken for a person. To some, the figure looks more like it's covered in hair than fabric. Whatever the truth, the image of that shadowy figure lurking in the woods has fueled both rational explanations and wild theories. Was it just a person messing around, or did he stumble onto something he was never meant to see? Veteran Bigfoot researcher Scott Carpenter has pioneered a clever method for capturing these elusive beings, a backward-facing camera that records whatever might be trailing him. This time, what it captured left even Scott speechless. Hidden in the dense brush, a towering pale figure subtly ducks to avoid detection. Look closely. The white hair is unmistakable. Its movements are careful, deliberate, clearly trying to stay concealed. While Carpenter has documented numerous cryptids shadowing his expeditions, a white Bigfoot is something rare. Could this be an albino variant? The implications are astounding. This particular trail appears to be a hotspot. Carpenter has recorded other strange activity in the same area.
Oh, this guy here. This is on the same trail. This is really just right across from where the other one was. This guy here.
As he walks along the path, the figure briefly steps into view, locking eyes with the camera before slipping behind a thin tree for cover. And here's where it gets even more intriguing. If Scott's theory holds water, then what we're seeing is extraordinary. You can make out facial features, eyes, nose, even the shape of the face. But now, look carefully at its arms. Is it just me, or does it appear to be cradling something? Could this be a parent protecting its young? If so, it might be further proof that these beings travel in family units, just like us. What do you think is going on here?